Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. I'm SocietySucks and today I'm checking out Where Do Hills Come From by Mapmen. I don't really know what to say here, to be honest. I mean, it's hills. It's just geography. But yeah, let's just see what they have to say on it.
Humble hillocks,
Modest mounds,
everyday elevations,
petty prominences,
low-down lumps.
low-down lumps.
Welcome to Mapmen.
We're the men.
And here's the map.
Mapmen, Mapmen, Mapmen.
Hills. Britain's littered with them.
In fact, hardly any
Okay, so we're
Britain
talking
isn't hills.
about
And
the
as a
UK's
result, You might
hills.
not even realise when you're standing on one.
And hills have an even bigger problem when it comes to grabbing our attention or being selected as our desktop background. Namely, they're not mountains.
The exact difference between a hill and a
Obviously.
mountain has been heavily argued. But the one thing everyone agrees is that mountains, with their jagged, craggy edges and majestic snow-capped peaks, are dramatic and exciting, but hills are boring.
You might therefore expect
I mean, I don't know about
how
that.
hills are formed.
A few weeks ago, I was driving through the countryside over hills and the view was beautiful. Everything looked great. So I wouldn't say hills are boring. They're just maybe not as exciting as mountains. Although I won't lie, part of the thing that made the view beautiful was the mountains that were in the distance.
To be as boring as the hills themselves. But this is not the case.
Because, like the tin of sardines my granddad wrestled from Hitler during World War II, the object itself...
Wait, excuse me?
Because, like the tin of sardines my granddad wrestled from Hitler during World War II, the object itself is unremarkable. But the story behind it
I'm sure
is
it's a
riveting.
true story.
Welcome to Mapmen.
We're the men.
And here's the
Wait a
map.
minute, we've done this.
You already did
Let's
that.
take a look at a boring English hill with a surprising backstory.
Here's one. It's called Windover Hill, and it's found right in the middle of the Sussex South Downs. But it's not here because of anything that happened in Sussex, or even Hampshire. It's here because of Africa.
That sounds far-fetched.
Shouldn't the Cerne Abbas giant be in Dorset?
No, he's something of a free spirit. Anyway, are you trying to suggest this hill hasn't just always been here?
That's right, and you can tell just from looking at me.
obviously
because,
not.
As you can clearly see, this hill is made of chalk.
I thought the Long Man of Wilmington was made of concrete breeze blocks.
That was a conservation decision. Not everyone wants to fully expose themselves.
Bah.
Anyway, the point is, this hill is made of chalk, and that tells you that this hill used to be flat.
Surely not. Tell me more.
Almost all the world's chalk was formed in a very specific way at a very specific time. 100 million years ago, during the Cretaceous period, Sussex was underwater. And the sea was full of tiny creatures like foraminifera and coccolithophores, which had tough shells and exoskeletons. When these creatures died, they sank to the seabed and slowly got squished down flat by more and more layers of shells and skeletons. And over
Yeah.
millions of years, these tiny bones compacted
But
into the
how
horizontal layers of chalk.
Does
we
this have
find
anything
today.
to do with Africa?
But that can't be right. You're a hill.
Yes, because it turns out rocks can move.
What? How?
To understand,
Oh,
we need to go back
okay.
in time 200 years to look at a very clever map made by a very clever man called William Smith.
William
So
Smith was
I'm
a
guessing
rather
it has
boring
something
man
to
with
do
the rather
with
boring
when
job of
Africa was
surveying the
pushing
construction
up
of the Somerset
north
Gold
against
Canal,
Europe.
which he was doing when he noticed something only a boring person would notice.
Staring at the sides of the canal, Smith spotted that there were different types of rock piled on top of each other. And these layers, or strata, each had their own sets of fossils that got older the deeper the layers went.
Smith hypothesized that by looking at
Yes,
the different layers
science!
of rock underground, he'd find clues as to when and how the landscape above the ground had formed. Rocks, he suspected, told stories.
Determined to find out more, he took his rock hammer with him everywhere he went, banging on about rocks so much that he earned himself the nickname William Strat.
I can't imagine being dressed like this and just hammering the ground in public. I wonder what the people around them were thinking when they did this.
to Smith.
Smith began to map his findings.
Determined to find out more, he took his rock hammer with him everywhere
Unless
he
this
went,
is like
banging on
green
about rocks
screen.
so much that he earned himself the nickname William Strata Smith.
Smith began to map his findings, hoping it would help unlock the ancient stories of the landscape. But part of the picture just wasn't enough. There was only one thing for it.
There is only one thing for it. I shall have to survey the entire length and breadth of Great Britain. That will be very interesting.
Nobody had ever completed a complete geological survey of Britain anywhere in the world before. But in 1800, Smith and his rock hammer began
Well,
their
time to be the
monumental task,
first.
a journey of more than 10,000 miles by horse and by foot, leaving quite literally no stone unturned.
Until 15 years later, Smith finally unveiled his iconic map.
Having painstakingly walked across every square inch of Britain,
Where's he
William
gone?
Smith was finally ready to unveil his groundbreaking rock map.
And he called it
a delineation of the strata of England and Wales with parts of Scotland exhibiting the collieries and mines, the marshes and fenlands originally overflowed by the sea, and the varieties of soil according to the variations in the substrata illustrated by the most descriptive names.
Smith's map showed
Well,
Great
at
Britain
least the
as it had
title
never
tells
been
you
seen
exactly
before.
what it is.
The carpet of green grass was stripped away to reveal swirls and folds and swooshes and scrunchy little wrinkles of lots of different coloured rocks. It is genuinely my favourite map.
The striking colours were not chosen at random. Each one reflected the rock type they represented, such as yellow for the Jurassic limestone of the Cotswolds,
Where the houses tend to be yellowy coloured,
red for the iron-rich clays of Lancashire,
where the houses tend to be reddy coloured.
and green for the chalky hills of the South Downs.
That doesn't make sense. Chalk's white.
Well, if they left it white, it would just look like it was blank.
Fair enough. And Smith's clever colour coding didn't stop there. If you zoom in, you'll see that each colour is shaded along a gradient of dark to light. The darker edges mean that the rock meets an older layer next to it, and the lighter edges mean the rock meets a younger layer. This was important because it meant that Smith's map not only showed what rock was where, but when rock was where, which together helped explain how rock was
Here, at Window the Hill on the South Downs.
Finally.
Looking at Smith's map, you can see that the long, chalky, hilly South Downs sit opposite a remarkably similar geological feature 30 miles to the north, the long, chalky, hilly North Downs, with a big splodge of older rocks in between.
It was a tantalising clue that the South Downs Hills might be part of a much bigger rock story, literally.
Viewed from the side, the North and South Downs are an uncannily symmetrical mirror image, with gentle slopes on the outside and steep slopes on the inside. And if you join up the dots, it's clear they were once connected, forming part of a much bigger hill, the middle of which has since been eroded away by wind and water.
So, if the North Downs and the South Downs were once part of a much bigger hill, with chalk, which can only form when it's flat, like curved on top of it, how did Smith explain how that massive hill got there in the first place?
He didn't and couldn't. He'd have to wait more than 100 years until he was dead to find out the answer.
But I want to know the answer now!
Hocatus, pocatus, obbledygeecher, it's time to summon a geography teacher!
Right, settle down. In 1912, a
it's-
German
okay,
scientist called
okay.
Alfred Wegener put forward the idea of plate tectonics. He said that the Earth's crust was made up of tectonic plates which moved around. But
Yup,
this was just
obviously.
a theory until 50 years later, sonar technology allowed them to finally prove that he was right. Now, first, they thought the plates moved because of convection currents deep within the mantle. But now they think it's more to do with gravity and something called slab pull. None of this is important. What is important is that when two plates are pushing into each other, things get pretty explosive. We're talking mountains, we're talking volcanoes, we're talking earthquakes. It's exciting stuff. Now, here in Britain, as you can see, we're nowhere near any plate boundaries, so we don't get this sort of excitement. But there is one here. The African
Yeah,
plate
so
has been pushing into the Eurasian plate
that's
for
what I
65
said
million
earlier.
years.
We really could have just skipped straight to this part and ignored most of the things we've talked about. Also, what is this map of North America? Jesus. What happened to Mexico and Canada? What is this? Oh god. Oh yeah. This also doesn't look very good. I mean, yeah, it is hand-drawn.
Pushing up the Alps in an event known as the Alpine Orogeny. No sniggering, that's orogeny with an O. And this same earth-shattering force was so huge, it created a ripple effect all the way over here in England. That's right. Africa pushing into Europe at a fault line thousands of miles away has pushed up the Chilterns, the White Cliffs of Dover, and a once very big hill in Sussex whose middle has since eroded down to leave behind the steep North and South Downs that we see today. Now try telling me that hills can't be fascinating. I liked him.
So, now we know our chalky southern hills.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't say the hill itself is fascinating. It's the process which created the hill that's fascinating. The actual hill itself, it's just a change in the ground elevation. That's really all it is. The process is the interesting part.
Were made all the way in Africa. But what about Britain's other hills? Are they also the ripples of collisions thousands of miles away? Were the Cotswolds created in Canada?
Were the peaks put together in Patagonia?
Were the Cheviots chiseled in China?
No, and they didn't need to be, because something else Smith never found out, the majority of Britain's hills were formed much longer ago and much closer to home.
Welcome to Map Men.
We're the men.
And oh no, we've
Not
definitely
again.
done it. We've
Done
definitely
it.
done it. 450 million years ago, a supercontinent called Laurentia, which had future Scotland on it, was moving very slowly towards a microcontinent called Avalonia, which had future England on it. When they finally collided, the force created dozens of volcanoes and a mountain range as big as the Himalayas. Boffins call this the
I like the
Caledonian
use of
orogeny.
Over the
claymation.
years, these enormous mountains were eroded down by ice sheets, mostly, rivers and
Way
wind,
better than
a bit,
using
and
AI
people
for this
walking
stuff.
their dogs, hardly at all, into a mixture of much smaller mountains and, of course, hills, including the Trossachs Hills in Scotland,
the Cheviot Hills in Northumberland,
the Lake District Hills in Cumbria,
and this hill in Edinburgh that Edinburgh Castle's on top of. Britain banging into itself at an explosive plate boundary? That sounds like a unique and historic event.
It was. But then it happened again.
100 million years later, a different giant landmass called Gondwana, which had future tip of Cornwall on it, smashed into La Russia, which had future rest of Britain on it, resulting in a load more mountains and a load more volcanoes. Boffins called this the Variscan orogeny.
Which, once again, have been slowly beaten down into picturesque hills, including
The Shropshire Hills in Shropshire,
the Malvern Hills in Worcestershire,
Millick Haven in Cornwall,
and the Peak District Hills in, the Peak District. So Britain's hills are not, as it might be tempting to imagine them, the blank canvas onto which our history began, but they have their own varied and exciting orogeny stories.
and that's something we would never have been able to understand were it not for the brilliantly boring brain of William Smith.
But what happened to Smith himself? Was he rightly feted and celebrated for his achievement in his
Probably
lifetime?
not.
Yes! Sorry, I mean no! The work Smith had put into producing his map left him impoverished, indebted, and imprisoned. It was only years after his death its significance was fully realised.
Not only
Oh.
did the colourful swirls and patterns on his map
I mean,
unlock clues
to be
the
fair, that's
mysteries
true
of the
for a lot
landscape,
of people
they
who
were
discovered
fundamentally
things.
helping the operations of mining companies, water companies, engineering companies, and facilitating the Industrial Revolution.
Until finally, decades after his death, he was given the much less boring nickname, the Father of English Geology.
Thank you.
In the end,
At
the
least
story
he'll
of
be
William
remembered
Smith
as
is
someone
similar to the
important
story
in
of this
death.
hill.
What, boring?
Boring at first glance, but brought to life by Mark's favourite map.
Yay!
Please put some trousers on.
I won't.
The best part of this video definitely had to be Mark as the geography teacher. I wish I'd had more teachers who got that excited over certain topics. Would have definitely made classes a lot more interesting and fun. Honestly, I think the closest thing would be my history teacher. During Euro 2024, we literally had a lesson with him where one of my classmates, he went up to the board and started drawing stuff and explaining how a match went, and then our teacher was adding stuff to it. My history teacher was one of the best I've ever had. But anyway, I don't really know what to add, what to say here. I mean, they explained what formed the British Hills. Yeah, I really don't know what else to add here, so I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please consider subscribing and leaving a like. If you want to see more reactions, check out this video right here. And with that, I hope I'll see you in the next video.